topic of the moment, the American sexual freedom experiment. And so I put freedom in quotes in question because, as we know, to have proper sense of freedom and space and that you live in a safe community, you need to have responsibility for it, like having a functional police force and military. And so the question I'm going to be posing is, how do we regulate this? Does it mean that we have to be like Saudi Arabia and have laws that dictate? I mean, it might be necessary for people at least of a certain age who aren't discerning enough, they're too young to actually make legitimate decisions, just like we will refuse to allow people under, say, the age of 25 certain things like renting a car or different things. So, and obviously, like, we don't want like young teenagers having intimacy, so then why not make it be where even like older teenagers or young adults can't have intimacy even within themselves? And what kind of culture would want that? Well, if people liked the idea of marriage and of wanting a virgin and of wanting somebody with no prior memories or sense of, prior connections or anything, and this goes both ways. Feminists will always say, well, hey, it's not fair that men don't have to be virgins, but women do. It's a double standard. But no, I'm here to say that all people do, because it's not just about a physical thing. It's about mental attachments and connections. And so, again, I go back to the title, The American Sexual Freedom Experiment. If we look at America right now, people are trying to, there's this inexplicable tension, I would say, in the United States. And I'm here to say that I don't think it's from racism or religion or class. I actually believe that it's not even, that it's really because of premarital intimacy that people are not trusting each other, they're not really working together, they're not really wanting to share, it's only like a survival thing, like doing the bare minimum rather than really wanting to be in the community. And hey, there are some things that feminism has helped us to be aware of, like that women can be masculine, they can do good work, and yes, of course. But the question is, what does a nice functional marriage ideally look like? Does a man want to feel feminine? Average heterosexual couple. And so I'm suggesting that the real reason for all this tension is this scene of sexual marriage, and also something else, something I call a deference to authority, which is like expecting people to do things for you, which happens when you live with people like your parents and whatnot, and I don't think people should do that, especially men. And I think that's part of the reason that men unconsciously want to dominate women, whether it's sexually, have as large of a privates as possible to dominate women. The ultimate masculine is actually giving oral sex to a woman, because that is it's not about him trying to get off. It's not oriented around his privates. It's oriented around her vulva. Yeah. And so it's not about him trying to get off, And so, and at the same time, like I was suggesting, when they label someone like a mother or grandmother or aunt, it makes them internally angry and makes them want to manifest that sense of power and control and get it out of someone else. And that's why you'll find that men who are really into that, like labeling people their mother, what ends up doing is they end up trying to control a woman, and control and dominate her in whatever way they feel like they can. And so we're trying to transcend that. We're trying to, it's like, where do you draw the line? Like, we know that we want legalities against prostitution, but do we use, like, is religion the only way to, like, steer people away from unloving activities? The problem with the whole go to hell argument is that it's an emotional argument. Hey Bear, good question. So, age should a man? So it's like what you're asking is, what age is a man like financially and physically and mentally ready for marriage? Maybe you're asking. To me, it seems like 30 or 35, and then for women, it seems like between 20 and 25. And part of me doesn't like the whole age gap thing. Part of me thinks that it'd be nicer if the woman was maybe 25, the man was 30, or maybe the woman was 30 and the man was 35, or maybe they're even closer in age. But the thing about age gap marriages is, to me, it's like, as long as they look like they're the same age, or they get past it, to me, then that makes sense. And people mature at different levels. So, but you really want somebody who, when people get married, the other thing is in this day and age, people are worried about, life is hard. It's actually hard. It's hard to have children. It's hard to raise them, whatever generation you're from. And so there's a temptation for people to not do that and just have, premarital intimacy. But, part of the problem is the woman's psychology of she only respects men who don't want her. And that's why women like the bad boys. But the way that we navigate around that in marriage is, first of all, they both agree that the husband and the wife both agree that they want to be they both agree that they want to be they want to follow the same value system. So even if, regardless of who's making the money, they both they're in love. They're in love with a higher value system, and so they can go through hardship based upon that. So the reality is, if we want to live in a trusting society, we need to ask ourselves, why would you give your body and your finances to someone if they're not willing to commit to you? And for men, it's like men give their extra soul. They give all the extra stuff they have to a woman, and if she's not his wife, then what happens is she uses that energy elsewhere instead of using it to help him, like, be secretary or helper if possible, or raise their kids with the same values that the husband has, that type of thing. So why, the answer to that of why you would engage in PMI is because you want to have an orgasm. So lust is controlling you. It's easy to solve that by masturbating. Now, also, if you look at pornography, a lot of it features unmarried couples, but hey, at least that's better than actual engaging in premarital intimacy yourself. And then you can always watch solo pornography, which is more moral, you could argue. And for those who don't like pornography, like, at least fantasize about the women that are, around you. So, and for women, it might be the opposite, because men experience post-nut mental clarity. Women experience post-nut mental cloudiness. So I don't know if they can also, I don't know if they can masturbate every day and then manage that sense of desire. All right, so let me see here. So the main point is that it's better to be alone than to be intimately attached. And by the way, intimacy and sex means attachment. If you're having sex with someone, it means you're trying to attach them. Don't lie. So it means, so it's better to be alone than to be attached to someone with different values and not committed to you. So the idea of virgin, it is a religious point, but everything is a religion. Whatever people do is a religion, okay? And do you want a woman who's been with other men? Like, I'm trying to tap into some elements of religion, and I get why you're saying that, because I said, should we use religion to control people and have like a theocracy like they have in like Saudi Arabia? Okay, so again, the main point is it's better to be alone, and you won't feel lonely if you focus on your goals and sustaining your values. Because when you do stuff for yourself, especially as a man, you feel you're in the frequency of love. You're loving yourself. You're what you want to do first. And so masturbation is also important for this. And people should look forward to masturbation, just like people anticipate sex. So that way they're not waiting 25 years for the right person and not having been able to enjoy the first 10 years of their sexual maturity. And so the reality is sex during marriage is unpredictable. Like, you want to try to match up with someone with similar health and sexual health and duration and frequency of intercourse, and there should be an attraction to one another's sexual organs, and men should be also okay with masturbation during marriage. Instead of the woman ending up using her body as leverage, that's not good for anyone. And men, again, emphasis on this idea of oral sex, because it's like woman's flower. That's like the meaning of life, right? And you can F the woman in the thighs, when they lay down with their ass in the air. You can F their thighs. The whole point is women aren't always in the mood for sex. And, it's feminine, okay, for men to be like hoping that the woman's going to like give him oral sex, or that he's going to be the receiver of her, intentions, sexual intentions. And of course, it's natural for us to want that to be happening. But the reality is that at the bare minimum, the man needs to be completely in control of his desires. Like I said, masturbate if needed. The man needs to be able to to give her oral sex even if she doesn't want sex, and not touch her at all unless she wants to be touched. Like, that is the reality of, committing yourself to one human being, a woman who has generally different, women's lives are difficult. They have hormones and these. So, okay, so let me let's look at this again. So basically, men thinking, okay, so here's the trouble. Men are thinking, right, that if they add a woman to their life, that it's going to make life better and their world better, that it's going to make it easier to be healthy and wealthy and happy. And, in a perfect world, yes. But the reality is, it usually makes it more difficult because women, they have emotions and they, a lot of guys, what ends up happening is they have to deal with, like, worrying about if their wife is in a good mood or not, and so that's something to think about. And now we have to consider the reality that it's hard for men to protect their women in at least the United States society, because schools promote premarital intimacy through proms, allowing people to have, sexual relationships in the schools. And just the idea of co-ed gender, there's always going to be that element of sexual element when sports and education might be secondary. Okay, so men end up being able to prey upon the, young women, even if they're of the same age, it's like, okay, so women then become forced to do what? They become forced to be masculine in order to defend themselves, and that's how the whole system breaks down. And the culture itself, feminists will say that, well, they want the freedom to do whatever they want. But like I said, freedom just is not possible without responsibility. All right, so let's see here. So, are you tired of all this drama? Because I am. So all we need to do is we got to start debating. We got to start talking about this stuff. If we want society to feel like a loving place where you can trust each other. Remember, like I said earlier, it's not about. There's a tension, but it's not really racism. It's not class warfare. It's not, religious differences. In fact, if you look at all Orthodox religions, they all promote avoiding intimacy. Okay, and so that should be a clue to us that it's not about religion. In fact, a lot of people pretend to be a religion, but it's really just they're just using the ritual aspects of it that don't really have any consequence in real life. So here we go. Here's some debate talking points that we can get into. We can number one, ask men if they want a virgin or if they, want a woman who's been with other men. Number two, ask women if they would like to follow a man that they look up to and take his last name. Number three, what's more important? Love and commitment first? In other words, get married first and commit to each other, or sexual activity first? So in other words, what do people care more about? Their love and commitment to themselves and their values and their spouse, or do they care more about sex? Next, debate tactic number 4. Would you be willing to say that you prefer premarital intimacy on camera on the record in public. A lot of these people will make fun of what I say, but when I say, "Hey, do you want to be interviewed? Do you want to talk about this and hold a position contrary to mine and debate it?" And they'll just quietly quiet down. And believe me, I can personally tell you the send it, make a comment if you want the link. I have one of my, or you can scroll through. I have a video. I think it's a live from probably a year ago or so. Just scroll around. It shows that a bunch of me responding to a bunch of Facebook posts of a bunch of women and some men who were like trying to be pro PMI. Okay, number 6. Do you think you can use your imagination and pornography? Burr, let me answer that. I'll answer that shortly. Do you think you can use your imagination and porn and masturbation and using toys? And by the way, men should be using toys as well. There's something called the Doc Johnson main squeeze, and I use it without the plastic sleeve, and it has this very realistic feel, and you can like use it and mess around with it just as if it's like giving oral sex, and just the material is very realistic, and so, or do you think that the only way to fully know about what like, do you need to have intercourse in order to be able to really with someone, in order to really tell if you're compatible? I would say no. I would say that so Bear is thinking yes. I'm saying no, because you should be able to have a conversation about it on web camera, and you can talk about your personal matters, share revealing pictures, be honest, talk about, well, realistically, what do you should. But when you start talking at this point about, oh, here we go, wave, boys, wave. Wow, nice. Yeah. Oh, here's another wave. Here we go. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. Oh, that was cool. So, oh, look at that tugboat there. Nice, yeah? See a tugboat out there pulling that, looks like an oil tanker. Something. So, the point is that you can talk about these matters once you've established that, hey, you have similar values. You're kind of like brother and sister, like spiritually speaking, and you really care about each other. See, the thing about, I call the prostitute paradox, is where people will seduce people that they don't care about. Like, if you really care about someone and you respect their values, then you're not going to want to seduce them with your body. A lot of people, they're basically prostitutes to each other with their physical bodies. Okay, hold on, guys. So continuing on with the debates, right? So, do you want true love? And then that's point number 6. Point number 7. What do you think is the most efficient way? Oh, helicopter. Hey, Gumbazi. Yeah. Do you like, what do you think is the most efficient way to find true love? And what do you think is, the best way to prepare for it, being that it's like the biggest decision of your life? And by the way, if you think you're attractive, then why aren't you able to, get married to someone? Or find someone? You see what I'm saying? If you really think you're that attractive. Okay, so men, so even if you have no privates, or you have erectile dysfunction, it doesn't matter, because that is about getting off, like I said earlier. And what's most important is giving a woman oral sex, because that is like, it's a loving act. It's being masculine. it's about the woman, and it's not about the man. It's not about the woman's breast. It's not about anything else. Because for both men and women, if you have attractive bodies, if you have attractive sexual features, holy shit, then you should use these assets to attract a spouse and have children with those good genetics, right? Not to seduce each other. And see, it's not an envy. I don't envy people who, are attractive. To me, I just see it as, if you misuse your body or money, then I disapprove of that. See, envy, there's no such thing as envy. It's only disapproval. Because if someone's healthy, and if they're attractive, if they have money and they use it in a wholesome way, then no reason to envy them. Now, so we don't want to create this comparison culture of people comparing each other. We don't. And then, if people are having PMI, premarital intimacy, then they can't have a virgin spouse of body and mind. So, don't you want somebody with no previous memories from the past and attachments? All right, good news. We're almost there. Again, I want to conclude. I'm going to say that putting vulva first, that's our flower, and instead of cars, instead of penocentrism, which is a focus on men's privates and penis, instead of focusing on breasts, because I personally prefer a smaller breast, and I prefer a larger vulva. Like, for me, it's more of an experience. And I think it's a red flag when people are not talking about that. Like, they're not saying, well, I like a woman, and I like her body, I like her vulva. There's nothing more amazing than a woman, and her vulva. And so, but all these men who are always trying to get so into their cars or their pets or their sports or their technology, it's like, make women number one. And it's not about sex. It's about, because over the course of time, that you won't always be able to do that, but you will always be able to give your wife massages, give her oral sex, and because that's the meaning of life. And so that's my conclusion, and that helps us to go beyond all these uncertainties and fears about, am I attractive enough, or how do we create a happy world? And there's your answer. So thank you for tuning in. And Mr. Bearsall, I don't know if your questions I fully digested them, but if you want to post more, or I'll see you in the next show. Until next time, guys, a big aloha. What a wonderful view to share with you. Pardon if the audio wasn't perfect. I'll be making improvements to that. Aloha.